So, could you explain a little bit about why you yourself feel drawn to Japanese films?
I grew up watching some Japanese films, and it's part of my heritage because my mother's Japanese. So, watching these kinds of films, it's always nice to feel a little bit more connection to your family and your culture.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle movies, books, podcasts, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read or watch in today's case. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today is my very good friend and first time in studio, although returning guest, Rich Mattias. Welcome, Rich.
How are you, Amanda?
Good. How are you? Welcome to the studio. You've been on 2 episodes, but you have only now seen and been in studio.
Oh, you're living in the lap of luxury. It's very nice.
You can look up our studios online, everyone. It is a nice studio, but it is stark. I would say that. It's very white. It's very quiet. You can hear everything. So, is there anything you'd like to say to introduce yourself before we get started?
No, just that we've known each other a while and we share a similar taste in good film and media. I'm glad to be on.
Yeah. I always really enjoy these talks. Your movie picks really get me thinking, I think. And so I'm especially excited to talk about this one because you described it to me when we were discussing it in person as almost like the progenitor foodie movie.
I mean, to me, it's just, I would not say this lightly, but I think this movie is just nearly a perfect film.
Wow.
There is nothing about this film save a couple of moments that aren't just amazing, and I watch it every time, and I love it every single time.
So what movie have you brought for us today?
It's a 1985 movie called Tampopo by the director Juso Itami. In Japan, he is a very well-known writer-director, so he writes all his movies and then he directs them.
Wow. I don't know how common that is these days. I'm always curious.
Yeah, it's hard to do both. You know, maybe you might think of like a Tarantino or Woody Allen, but yeah, this is what he did. He did 11 movies like this, where he wrote and directed all of them.
Goodness gracious. So, and this one has stuck out to you. Could you tell us a little bit about the film before we get into the summary of it? I guess maybe, is there anything that you think that we should know before we get into the summary?
Well, I know I'm supposed to discuss a little bit about the genre, but the interesting thing about the movie is it does bend all kind of genre conventions, and it is drama, romance, assemble your team style movie, a coach and protege style movie, a makeover story, a Western, all of those mixed together and more. So the movie kind of defies any kind of definition. It's kind of a one-on-one, and I love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How exciting. That's a really broad mix of genres, and you just called it the perfect movie. So seemingly it does all of these well.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I know that I definitely looked up the poster, like when we were originally talking about it, and it looked, I want to say zany, but that's a little bit too crazy. You know, like it looked like an old movie poster that would be a good time. So, which is a very vague description, but I don't know any other way to describe it. Like, I think you should just look at it. It was I guess it did a good job. It made me really curious about what everybody was doing.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Rich, could you go ahead and let's get into the summary. Tell us about Tampopo.
There are 2 semi-truck drivers named Goro and Gun. Of course,
That's a good
Gun.
name.
There's
Gun.
Yes, one wearing an Indiana Jones style cap. They got bull horns on top of the semi-truck. It just feels kind of a steel horse kind of a thing, like it's a Western. And they roll into this kind of a dilapidated noodle shop, and it's run by the titular protagonist named Tampopo, this young woman who makes noodles, but her noodles are terrible. And from there, Goro takes a fondness to her, and he decides to stick around. And then the movie just becomes a quest to create the perfect bowl of ramen noodles. That's the whole movie.
The whole film is following their goal to create the perfect bowl of ramen noodles for Tampopo's shop.
That's right.
Okay.
And so to do that, they slowly assemble a team a la superhero movies, bank heist movies, Seven Samurai, the assembling of a team with each person with a particular set of skills, except these ones are, a homeless noodle master or a wealthy tycoon's personal chef or a roughneck interior decorator. All of them have some skill that will help Tampopo level up and become a ramen master.
And have her noodle shop become the it place,
That's
basically.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, do they succeed? Are there any standout moments?
Oh yeah, they succeed. The movie has a happy ending. It becomes one of the most successful restaurants. But the journey there is really the best part of it. And she kind of learns to memorize orders, move efficiently, track customer satisfaction, watch each customer's action to make sure they're eating and finishing all the food, how to slice the perfect width of pork, how to slice scallion, how to make the perfect soup. Everything like that. And then the shop at the end is made over, and she is made over into a nice chef outfit. Perfect. And she succeeds. Her dreams come true.
I love a makeover movie.
Yeah, it's terrific.
What about the journey in this film is something that stands out to you? Because you said the journey to the perfect noodle shop is it sounds like most of the story.
So the interesting part about it is I'm describing what seems to be the meat of the movie, and it's actually not, because scattered between the main plot points of the movie is, I would say, maybe a dozen or so vignettes that are totally unrelated to the main plot arc of the movie. All of them all related to Japanese food culture and society in some way. And the way that those are just scattered through the plot. And Itami has no qualms about doing it. He doesn't care that they have nothing to do with the main plot. He just says, look, this is also part of the movie. It's a package of understanding everything about Japanese culture and food and as it relates to the world. And so you have the main arc of Tampopo, but you also have all of these small mini stories, and those are arguably more interesting than the main arc of the story. So
really,
yeah, that's what's great about it.
I thought it was going to be that each of the vignettes was about related to one of the people that they picked up, and it was and this is how the noodle master became a noodle master and then became homeless.
They have
where
that.
We found him.
They have all of those things, and they have totally unrelated ones,
and that fantastic. Is not part of the vignettes that you're talking about.
No.
Oh my God.
It's great.
What? Okay, wait. So then I have one more question.
Sure.
Before I ask the regular questions, do you could you describe one of these vignettes to us? Do you remember any of them off the top of your head? It sounds like there's a lot going on.
The movie starts with a 1930s style Japanese gangster who sits down in a movie theater with a woman that he's in love with. And a couple of the vignettes throughout the story, totally unrelated to Tampopo, they share multiple scenes of a very sensual nature involving food. So God. They are having all these kinds of intimate moments involving strawberries, raw shrimp, oysters, egg yolks, and it's kind of a exploration of how food and sensuality can be intertwined. And so that guy opens the movie by sitting down at the movie theater and staring directly into the camera, immediately in the first few seconds breaking the fourth wall and says, "Oh, so you're in the movie theater too?"
Oh my God.
And he immediately starts talking to you. Right away, you know this movie's not going to be your usual film when one of the original characters immediately starts talking to you.
That makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So that's one example.
I didn't know what to expect, but I certainly did expect that, I would say.
Yeah.
So this movie sounds like a lot. I am already really intrigued. How did you even find this movie? How did you first encounter this film?
I think this was back in the day when... I think this is when I saw it. I have a memory of watching it at a certain time in my life where I lived somewhere where I would get Netflix DVD delivery before they became an online streaming service. If you have a younger audience that doesn't know, they used to mail DVDs to your mailbox.
I remember
and you would watch them, and then you would put them back in the mailbox. They would ship them back, and then the next DVDs in your queue online would ship.
It was revolutionary because you didn't have to go to the video store.
It absolutely was, yeah. And also you had a wide range of movies that you ordinarily wouldn't have access to at the store because they're sending it from a warehouse. And I think one of those was Tampopo.
Maybe they had I remember the time you're talking about because I also started it when I realized there was also kind of that period where they were transitioning to streaming. But they still had a lot of physical DVDs. And I remember that I think I was in between college, somewhere in there for me. and they had a bunch of like the Japanese anime that I had grown up with when I was young, and they just had like the collections of them, but only on DVD. So you couldn't stream them; you had to order them, and it was the only thing that I could get on a DVD. And then they switched over to streaming, and I lost access to all of them. And I was so upset. But I know what you're talking about. Like it felt like it almost felt to me like that moment they sort of had a broader history, because it was just like if you bought it, you could watch it. It wasn't necessarily like region locked in the same way.
And it was also just a perfect bridge between, you know, the brick and mortar blockbusters that we grew up with and the streaming services that we know. It was kind of directly into your home, but it was still a physical medium, so it kind of straddled both worlds.
Yeah. It really was revolutionary. It was a fun time. I remember like getting the movies. But before I get too off track and into just nostalgia, why don't you tell me what makes this movie so meaningful to you personally? And is it that guy at the very beginning who looks at you and says, "Oh, you're in the movie too"?
You know, that's part of it.
Really?
I love the I love the idea that characters can come in and out of the story and just have nothing to do with the main story, and
The sort of like
that's
non-sequitor
okay.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. The director leans into that. I like that the plot is compelling and the vignettes are all amazing. Again, I mentioned that gangster example. That's one, but there's also examples of, you know, a group of homeless men who live in the park who eat and dine more finely than any of the most wealthiest Japanese people because they have such a knowledge of food and cuisine, and they dumpster dive outside the finest hotels.
Oh, yeah.
And so
well,
they
good for
decant
them.
and blend wines and stuff like that. But they're just all homeless.
But they're homeless, yeah.
Yeah. And then another one shows a woman, this is a little bit more tragic, a little tearjerker. In her dying moments, she rouses herself from her bed to cook her family one final meal. As they're crying, they eat this fried rice, and it kind of elicits that idea of the love of comfort food. And she kind of smiles and dies watching her family eating the food.
Jeez,
so that's kind of, again,
well, also the love of like
language,
I was gonna say the love of having people eat something you made is really like, I am not necessarily a cook, but I benefit from having many people in my life who are the cooks, and that's like something that I hear them all the time is like just that feeling of like it feels so good to have people enjoy something that you put so much of yourself into, even when it becomes like your classic dish, and when you're able to do it in 5 minutes instead of 15, like seeing the joy on other people's face, like that food love language is like such a real thing.
That's right. Yeah, so that's again, it's all the ways in which food are kind of intertwined in our lives and our culture, how food as a love language, food as a way to break our bonds of conformity, especially in Japan when you order something wildly off menu, for example, in one of the vignettes when all these business executives are all ordering the same exact meal, because in Japan you don't the
deviate.
nail that sticks out gets hammered down, that cliche.
I literally said that today.
Yeah, so, and then the lowly assistant of the CEO orders this absolutely lavish,
Banger
hyper-expensive thing off the menu and embarrasses everybody with his knowledge of cuisine. So
wow.
In that moment, he's not the lowly man, he's the man on top.
Yeah.
So the way in which food we can use to communicate, how it's part of our lives, how it
plays into social
tragedy,
dynamics.
And social dynamics,
like.
all of it. Yeah, and it's all done pleasantly, simply, quickly, and beautifully. So that's why I really like this movie.
Does the movie have like it sounds like also mood, I guess, is like the correct word. My immediate thought was vibe. But like, does the movie have a consistent mood to it? Or do you feel like that also shifts? Because the vignettes that you're talking about, like in one way, like I was quite startled when you mentioned the very first one. And they do seem to cover like a wide variety of subject matter. But the way that you're describing them, it sort of sounds like they all have this feeling of like bringing you into the circle as like this kind of like, and now you know, and isn't that fun? Or like, and now we're sharing this together. So even though you're looking at a variety of different things, the mood feels like it's pretty consistent and pretty welcoming. Is that true? Or do you think that there's some like variation to it?
The whole mood of the movie is quite comedic and lighthearted in tone and has moments of drama and seriousness, but ultimately, yeah, it's interesting. All the vignettes seem totally unrelated, but because after within the first act of the movie, we understand it's all of a piece, that they are in some way creating a frame for what is happening in the story. The way the movie is just an expression of how food and life intertwine and how much we love food. And it's almost as if the story is a medium for it. And then it's almost like you have your main dish and these kind of
the main
vignettes
dish.
or complimentary side dishes kind of a thing.
How clever.
So it all, I don't know
It
how he
sounds like
did
it
it, but
works
it all
well.
works.
Yeah.
I honestly, it's hard to explain, but they're so unrelated, but it works.
So then let's get into why do you think that other people should see this movie? Nope, that's not it. Why do you think that this is a tale of our time? Or what meaning do you think that others could get from Tampopo?
I mean, I think we watch movies for any number of reasons, but one of them is just to feel a sense of joy and entertainment and enjoyment. And there's no way you can finish this movie and not feel a greater sense of joy than when you began the movie. Just of life, of sensory pleasures and things like that. And you'll definitely be hungry for ramen noodles when you're done.
Would you recommend eating during the movie or after the movie?
100% once you're done watching it, you're going to go get noodles. For sure. Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe this is something that you should like eat while you watch to like engage, I guess, in the activity with people. But I can see how like right before we started recording, we were even just talking up in the office. Michelle, who listeners will know, was mentioning that she gets so hungry after like animated movies and like looking at like the perfect food and in like other foodie movies. So I can imagine that this seems to be something that would leave you physically wanting more.
And also, if you just look at today's food culture has absolutely taken over everything in terms of, you know, entire shows and podcasts and reality TV shows, the Food Network. And all these celebrity chefs and now films where chefs are the main characters, and you have shows like The Movie Chef or the TV show The Bear, which is now so successful.
Wait, that's right, yeah.
So this is a 1985 movie. So before this food craze took off, you had this movie, and it's such a kind of a, and it almost does it better than everything that we see even today. So again, it stands the test of time.
Yeah, I can see. I was thinking like halfway through your description of like all the different people who show up in the vignettes, my thought was like, I see now why you called this like the ultimate foodie movie or like the original foodie movie. Just that kind of like love for the culture of eating, but in a very like not so serious way, like in a very relatable way.
And it's not just Japanese food, too. It's just a celebration of French food, Chinese food, Korean food, Japanese food, American food. They touch on every...
Wow.
Food is just as an international pleasure.
Yeah.
So...
For sure. Well, we are almost out of time. But if you could give Tampopo a one-phrase subtitle of your very own, what would that be?
Oh, food is life. The end of the movie ends as the credit sequence of just... it pans slowly to a woman just breastfeeding in a park. So that's the kind of the circle of life as it connects to food is right there directly shown to you as the credits sequence rolls for several minutes. So it's really nice.
Oh my God. I love when films kind of like push the boundaries of like what you expect a film to be able to do. And in that way, like you saying, like including all these non-sequitur parts that are like, and this is just something else that I wanted to put in the film. And this is the way I think it should go. Or like, even to the point of having like a very comedic film and with like a very earnest scene. And like that's just a whole thing. And we're just going to sit on that and like sit with that. I love the idea of people just continuing to use film and books or really any medium and kind of like pushing at the expectations of what you think it should do or what we expect of it.
I also think if you're throwing in a dozen or so of these mini stories, there's an easy chance of just failing or losing the audience. But somehow he makes it so, even though they're unrelated, every story is additive. It just adds to the film in some way that I can't quite figure out, but it's just, it gels. It's really amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I for sure want to watch it now. Yeah. Rich, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I can't believe that you caught me off guard twice in the same 20-minute session just talking about one film.
Well, it's an amazing movie. Again, a one of one. There's nothing like it.
And that's Tampopo for you guys. This has been Tales of Our Time on Radio Taiwan International. I was your host, Amanda Stevens, with my guest, Rich Mattias. And today we were discussing the film Tampopo, Food is Life, a tale of our time. We'll see you next time.